Good evening, everyone. Happy Publication Day. I'm Sophie. On behalf of Books and Books in Miami, Florida, it's my pleasure to welcome you to a virtual evening with Whitney Hanson and Joey Kidney to celebrate the release of Whitney's new poetry book, Home, published by our friends at Penguin Life. Home is a lyrical map to navigating heartbreak, tracing the stages of healing, from the despair that comes with the end of a relationship to the eventual light and liberation that comes with time. The poems in Home provide comfort and solace while revitalizing your soul and helping you make peace with your bees. Whitney Hanson is the author of Home and Climate. Through Whitney's vulnerability and authenticity, she has connected with thousands of readers and adamantly believes that poetry is not a dead language. Rather, it is the key to unlocking true vulnerability, which leads to deeper connection with one another. Whitney grew up in rural Montana, and she now attends university in South Carolina. Joey is a Canadian influencer, author, and poet. Joey Kidney began his career in content creation in 2013 by documenting his mental health journey on YouTube and later on Instagram and Twitter. He segued his content into poetry in 2020 and found a new audience on TikTok. Joey has released 2 books, What's the Rush and Dreaming with My Eyes Wide Open. He owns a successful online store featuring Stay You and Happy Hoodie brand merchandise and has partnered with hundreds of brands in the US, Canada, and the UK. Just a quick reminder that throughout this broadcast, you can post questions below in the Ask a Question feature that'll be at the bottom of your screen. We'll do a Q&A at the end. Please order your copy of Home from Books and Books and support independent bookstores. You can click the green button below to purchase. Now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guests to the virtual stage.
I think we're on. Hi.
I only see me.
I only see you as well.
I am trying to okay.
There we go. There's the author of the night.
Yay, okay.
And she's frozen.
Are you able to see her, Joey?
She's frozen. I think she
can she hear us? Uh-oh. Let me try to toggle her video off and let me turn it back on again and see if that works.
Still frozen.
Can she hear us? Are you able to text her?
Yeah, I'm doing that now.
Okay. Sorry, everyone. We will be on in just a second. Thank you for your patience.
She can hear us and see, or me, and see and hear me. But
that is weird. Do you think do you think she can exit out and I will get her back on?
I'll tell her. It should have been her, not me.
Don't worry, it happens. We will get it sorted.
Oh, you can vote on the questions too. That's pretty cool.
Yes, it's a cool feature that we have.
Oh, I feel like there's going to be some good ones.
100%. This is an engaging group of people watching.
Already 22. Guys, if you're watching, comment. Oh, there she is.
Am I here?
Okay.
Oh, it's nice to see you. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
I was talking to you guys because I thought that you guys could hear me the whole time, and then it took me a while to realize that I was not in the conversation.
You were a little frozen, but you were frozen like this, and it was like a model face, so you're good.
Oh, good. Well, hi, everyone. I'm excited that you're here. And Joey, I'm excited that you could join me too for release day and just to talk about writing and my book and everything. So.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. How's it feel? Today's a big day.
It's very exciting. For those of you who don't know, I self-published Home originally. So this is kind of release day number 2 for me. But it's kind of a bigger thing because now Home is in a bunch of stores and all over the country. And then I also am published in the UK as well. So it's just, it's really exciting. Yeah. I went to 3 different bookstores today just to look at the book in the store because I was just kind of geeking out about it. But it's really big.
It's in the States, right? Is it in Canada yet?
I don't think it's in Canada, but throughout the United States, and then in the UK. In the US, I have like a paperback version, which is this one. Yeah. And then in the UK, there's like a hardback version, which is really cool.
Oh, do you have one yet?
Yeah, I can actually. I'll seriously.
Yeah, go grab it. I want to see. Hardcovers are just they're so pretty. It's like everything that you've ever wanted in your book.
Yes. This is the hardcover.
Ooh.
It's really beautiful.
Oh, you're gonna have to do one of the ASMR videos where people like just
tap on the book. I have my fingernails, but I completely lost one yesterday and made myself bleed because I was trying to play basketball with the long nails, so that was fun.
Well, I mean, that'll do it.
Yeah, it will. I regretted my decision immediately. But
so now that book's like officially in your hand, it's officially out in the world. How long did it take you to write?
The book took me probably about 3 months to write it all the poems that are in it. And then the process of organizing and everything took a bit longer because I was self-published to begin with. And this was my first book self-published. And so I had to learn a lot about like formatting the books. I'm sure that you went through this process as well.
Yeah. Google Docs is not just that's not it. You write on there and then you're like, okay.
You try to do it in Google Docs?
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
I write everything in Google Docs.
Oh man. So did you end up finishing a book in Google Docs?
Not the formatting.
Yeah.
But everything else, yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so that whole process, obviously, that probably took longer than it actually took to write all the poems in the book.
Right.
But then I originally self-published it October of 2021. And then it's been out self-published for a while, but now it's out with Penguin Life. And so, yeah, awesome. Huge things.
That's awesome. What made you, what was the inspiration for even let's go even further than just the book itself, poetry? What made you want to be a poet?
I didn't necessarily want to be a poet in the way, I mean, I didn't necessarily want to be like a published poet originally. I always have just written poetry as like a coping mechanism. And then I shared a little bit on social media, but to my 40 or so followers. And then I started writing the book mostly as a coping mechanism as well, because I was going through a lot of heartbreak at the time, and also a lot of transitions, because I went through this really rough relationship, and then following the relationship I decided to transfer colleges, and some of it had to do with the relationship and just needing a change and needing to be somewhere else. And so just the whole transition became everything that was in the book, all those feelings of having to let people go and let relationships go, and having to make that decision myself to get up and leave. It's a hard thing. Even if you are in a poor situation, I think it's hard to get yourself to leave.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So that's where the book came about. But I didn't really know I was writing a book when I was writing it. It was more like I was just writing poems because I was dealing with all of this. And then I realized one day how many poems I had. I think there was somewhere around 800. And I was like, wow, I'm really going. So then I took it and pulled some out, and it became the book.
For the people that are watching that are aspiring poets, where'd you write these in the first place? Did you just write them in like your notes?
Yeah, like the notes in my phone.
Yeah.
And that's still where I write all of my poetry, like to this day, because I do like the like feeling of physically writing stuff out, and sometimes I'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time when I think of poetry, when I don't know, when anything like inspires me, it's like not at a very convenient time. And so my phone is always with me, so then I can write about it, you know.
Where do you think that you write the most, or get the thought to write the most?
Honestly, probably my car.
While driving.
Yeah, and it's like I'll be like speaking poetry into my phone as I'm driving, so that I can remember the thoughts.
Oh, mine has like, I do it through like the CarPlay thing. So I'm like, I don't want to say it because everything's gonna go off near me. But hey, blank, write a new note, and then I say the poem, and then it messes up, and then so I got to do it again and just try to get it all right. But
yeah, sometimes I'll read it back later, and I'm like, be like, what did I mean by this? Like, why does this say beef jerky? I don't know what this is supposed to say.
Maybe you're just hungry. Who knows?
Yeah.
So how many poems are in Home?
There are now, it's changed because the new edition has 16 new poems.
Uh-huh.
So I guess there's 338. Wow. And yeah, the new edition has 16 new poems, and they're not all necessarily new, because like some of them I pulled back from that bank of 800 poems that I originally wrote and was like, I actually wish I would have included this. And then some of them are like more recent reflections on that time in my life. So, yeah.
Do you think that writing the book helped you through heartbreak?
100%. That was kind of like my purpose in writing the book, actually. Like I say in the book that I wish that I had like an altruistic mission to save the world from heartbreak, but I don't. I maybe do now, but I didn't when I was writing the book. And I was mostly just trying to save myself.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes the best art is created that way, though, when there's not like the intent for an audience to see it or to read it. Like I didn't write this for anyone else. I wrote it for me. And then I'm like so glad that so many people have connected with it and it's helped so many people. But it also, it was for me in the beginning.
I think that's where we do the best writing. I find when it comes to, I don't know if you feel like this too, but with posting poetry and your art online, sometimes you get in the habit of just creating it for online, and then you just lose yourself. You're like, okay, I'm just gonna sit down and I guess I'll write something and I'll do this and I'll do that, and then you just kind of like, you get all lost in it, and then so you have to take a step back and then actually fall in love with writing again, kind of.
Yeah, I get that too. I definitely, when I get in that mindset, I have to like completely just kind of get off social media for a while and stop thinking about what people are seeing and what people are thinking of what I'm writing. And I do a lot better writing when I do that.
Yeah. Okay, so you didn't know you were writing a book when you were writing a book. So then what made you realize that it had the potential to be a book? What was that one moment where you're like, this could be something? This could be something bigger than even just for me?
I actually think part of it was the moment. I don't know if there was a singular moment, but there was this time when I like started to feel myself, I guess, coming out of the heartbreak, and I started writing more poems that were like uplifting and like and positive and like looking towards something other than my heartbreak. And I think that realization, that looking back at those ones where I was like completely devastated, feeling extremely betrayed, and then looking at the more recent poems where I was like looking back at that relationship and seeing what I learned from it and seeing it in a more positive light, that's kind of when I realized that the poems were like a story arc, you know, like it started out in this dark place and moves towards this light place.
Yeah.
And so once I realized that, I was like, you know, like someone could benefit from seeing me in my really dark place and then seeing me work my way out of it. And so that's kind of how it became a book.
Now, when you decided to make it a book, you were posting them on TikTok, right? Or on social media in general?
Not really.
No.
Like when I wrote the book, when I wrote the book, I was not posting really any poems on like TikTok. I had like an Instagram account, but like I said, it probably had 40 followers, and I wasn't reading them out loud. I was like posting little tiny, just like snippets of poems and stuff. But I wasn't really trying to like reach anyone. It was more just like an outlet for me. And I was too scared to share my poetry on like TikTok or on Instagram. I was too scared to like read it.
What made you comfortable to do it then? What inspired you to use your voice?
Well, I think the first thing was I posted, there was one poem that I felt so passionately about this poem that I was like, I have to put it out there. Yeah. It was just something that I felt like I really needed to put out there. And I put it out there, and that was the first time I ever like got like just crazy feedback. I think it had, I don't know, like 400,000 views or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. And so following that and seeing all of the people responding to that and being like, I needed this, or I feel exactly the same way you do, I was like, man, like maybe I should be sharing more of what I write. And so then following that, I started sharing more of my poetry and then sharing poems from the book.
Yeah. So you started writing about heartbreak, and then it started to become more uplifting. Now, what do you find yourself writing about if it's not heartbreak?
I think, I mean, I have another book that's coming out later this year, and that one's dealing with a lot of grief and like acceptance with that as well. So that's one thing that I've been really focused on writing about lately. And that has opened a whole nother, I don't know, like when you write about something, it's like you kind of have to like go back into the place where you were feeling those things.
Yeah, I was about to say, because you're so busy. You just graduated.
Yeah.
You run track, right?
Yeah, I just finished running. I ran track and cross country for my university. Awesome. And then I just graduated university as well.
So then how do you go from doing like, I'm sure you're doing schoolwork, and then you're going out to run, which I'm sure those two things are very different. And then you have to sit down and write. How do you channel those feelings?
Music is one big thing for me. Do you listen to music when you write?
Yeah, I got a playlist.
Yeah.
A lot of it's just inspired by like a certain song. A lot of like lyrics. I'm like, ooh, I love what they did here. I love like how they related it to everything else. And then I kind of use that as inspiration to in poetry.
I tend to listen to music without any lyrics to it.
Yeah.
And it's like music will give me a specific feeling, and then I will write about that feeling. And the other thing I do, which is kind of weird, is when I'm working on a poem, I'll like have a certain song playing in the background, and I'll just put that song on repeat. Like I will not listen to it. I won't like switch songs. It will just be the same song for like 2 hours while I finish this piece that I'm writing.
Yeah, I have exactly that, and it has no words, and it almost loops perfectly, so I don't even know. Like my head doesn't realize when it's ending. So that's really nice. But it's so funny though. Like whenever I find I get the thought like in the car or something, and I'm like, oh, it would be like a super sad line about heartbreak or about something that I'm not even going through. and I'm like, oh, that would hit home really well. And it could be inspired by just like a thought of a conversation that I had with a friend or something. But also to be sitting there with my girlfriend and we're just like having a chat, or we're driving or something, and then I'm like, oh, what do you think about this line? And she's like, what? Is that about us? I'm like, no. I just thought about it.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like inconvenient times. I'll be like, I don't know, in the middle of something, and I'm like, really, right now? I have inspiration right now when I'm supposed to be finishing this assignment that's due at 11:59 p.m.
Oh, I got ADHD. So once that thought goes,
it's gone. So do I. So me too. It's on that topic for the rest of the night.
Now I find like poetry helps my mental health. That's kind of the way that I work it out, like speaking on ADHD and everything like that. That's kind of how I handle my mental health issues, even if it's not in the form of like the structural form of poetry, more just writing itself. How do you think it's helped you as well as it's helped other people? Because now you share it. Now it's in people's hands.
I think that it's been huge for me. Like that's just been the key to processing everything for me is writing. And it has been since I was probably 16 years old. But at that time I wasn't really sharing it, and I didn't realize the impact of sharing it, because when you share your writing or your art, you get a response to it. And that response was, I didn't even realize how much I needed that response, because I published the book and then all these people were like, I feel exactly the same way. I'm in exactly the same place. I felt that heartbreak. I felt in this really, really dark place. I felt this struggle with mental health. And I think there's just a lot of power in that. So just in realizing that you're not alone in what you're going through. So I feel like maybe my writing has helped people realize that they're not alone, but they've also helped me realize that I'm not alone. So like there's like a mutual, we are not alone. And even if it's really hard and we are still struggling with it, we're doing it together.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's kind of why I post anything, even if it's like a little sad. I'm not a very sad guy, even though a lot of people think I am. But I just have like some thoughts every now and then. I'm like, do people think like this? And then I post it just to be like, kind of, I guess, searching for some validation, in a sense of just not feeling alone. And I think you do a great job of it, because all your poetry hits home with me. And I'll talk to you about it. I'm like, oh, what are you doing? That's amazing.
I feel the same way about your poetry. I'm like, oh man, not today, Joey. No, it's good though.
Some days I think we just try to make people feel something.
Yeah. But
that's
I think that a lot of times, like you said, that you kind of are perceived as like a sad person, and you're not really necessarily a sad person. You just create content that hits people in the feels. But I feel the same way. Like I think I posted something the other day and somebody commented, I've never seen you smile before. I was like, oh shoot. I took it too far apparently. But
I get that a lot too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I should probably show the other side of my life a little bit.
Yeah. But I think that it's important to show the like feelings, and especially like I have a lot of respect for men out here creating art and writing poetry, because I think that that's even more of a like I guess men aren't taught as much to be vulnerable, and so just all the respect to you for that.
What's very interesting, what kind of kept me going with it, I mean, I got my fair share of like not the nicest comments, we'll leave it at that, but I also got a lot of messages from men, and that's like the majority of people that are in my DMs are, and it's usually about heartbreak or losing someone that they loved and stuff, but that just inspired me. I was like, I was thrown off. I was like, I'm definitely like a lone wolf in this, but there's so many men that they're thinking about it more, maybe not talking about it publicly as much, but the conversation's there, which is really awesome. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want to get to some questions?
Yes, that would be awesome.
Awesome. Sophie, that's your cue. Yeah.
I'm back. Thank you guys. That was an awesome conversation. We do have not a few, we have a lot of questions to go through, but we're just going to go through as many as we can. We got a lot of votes for this one. This question is, any advice for someone that wants to self-publish for the first time?
We have two different ways. So Whitney, you'll go first.
Yeah. First of all, when I was first self-publishing, I just had to do so much research. But all the information out there is like there for you. All you have to do is like Google, like, how do I self-publish, or how do I format for self-publishing my book? And there's a lot of resources. One that was really big for me was using KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing. And then they have their like step-by-step how to self-publish, and then you just upload it. And I think that that's probably the easiest platform to use, but there's others. So
yeah, the way that I did it was more on the do it all yourself kind of front. So I found a printer, and they actually offered formatting, so I made sure to find somebody to do that for me. But I guess we miss a step. There's also the editing phase, so you can find an editor to go through it, just to make double check. You know, sometimes when we're in our fields, you know, we cry a little bit and it gets on the keyboard, and then we misspell things. And so you get an editor, and then what I did was I reached out to a printer, and then I got the books printed, and then they were shipped to my team and my manager out in Savannah, and then we shipped everything out ourselves through like Shopify. So that's just the other side of self-publishing. It costs a little bit more, but you're able to handle your own material.
That's really interesting. I actually had an event the other day, and one of the questions that was asked was, how did you get published? And literally the author's answer was just, I searched it up on Google. Like, that was her straight answer. So I think Google can answer it all. Like,
oh, sure. I bet you there's a TikTok out there that just explains.
No, 100%. It's crazy how many resources we have now. It's incredible. It's amazing. Another form of advice we have, what advice would you give to someone writing their first book?
I would say, first, make sure that you are writing it for yourself and you're being like honest and authentic in what you're writing, because like Joey and I talked about, I think the best art is created when you're not like thinking about, will people like this? It's more when you're just honest and real. So I would say, like, step one, be really honest in your writing.
Yeah. I guess the other question when writing is like, do I like this? Is this something that, and I think it helps when writing. I mean, maybe it's different for our style of poetry because we read it online, but read it to yourself. Get that emotional flow going when you read it to yourself, and like think, okay, how is somebody else going to read this? What emotion do I want them to feel? But my advice would be write everything. Like even if it's bad, like Whitney's saying, like she had so many notes of poems, and so do I, and then go through them after. Every thought that's in the car, every thought that's in the shower, just write it all down. And sometimes you can like mix and match them, and they just complete each other. So it's pretty cool.
That is really cool. We have a question asking, what does home mean to you?
I think I know who that one's for.
I don't know. So when I started writing Home, like I said, it was just like a collection of poems. And I realized that I was in this place where I didn't feel like I was at home with myself. And I think that happens after relationships a lot, because we can become dependent on other people to be our happiness or to be our purpose. And that's what I did. And I would never recommend it. And I lost that person that was my happiness and my purpose. And I was like, I don't know who I am. and I don't know where home is. I don't feel at home with myself. And so home is this journey of finding that again and finding purpose within myself and finding love and everything that I need to sustain myself within myself. And so that's where the title came from. And that's what home means to me.
That was really beautiful.
Thanks.
I think people need that, you know. I know your readers will really appreciate this because it's so real, so raw, and I salute you on that, on this vulnerability.
Thank you.
But we have, I'm trying to go through, it's a lot coming at me. I apologize if I pause. How do you cope with writer's block?
Joey, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, I guess we talked about it a little bit. Music really helps. What has always inspired me from the days of like when in like 2013 when I was making YouTube videos, I made a lot of videos on advice, and that's kind of like what stemmed me into writing. The way that if I ever had any like creative block, I would go and I would talk to my friends, and it doesn't always have to be your trauma or your happiness or your feeling. It can always be inspired by somebody else's. And so my friends would just break down in front of me, and I'd be like, I'm here for you. Hold on, let me write that down real quick, or let me think about this. And so I would just be inspired by the people who surround me, which I think your environment is a huge thing. So yeah, that could be music around you, that could be the cafe that you go to, or just the friends that you're around all the time.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. Like just putting yourself in a different environment can be helpful to get some inspiration. Mm-hmm. The other thing I do, like if I feel, I don't force myself to write. It's kind of a rule for me. Like if I sit down and I'm like, there's nothing in my brain, I try to write something and it's like not coming out anything I want, I will literally be like, this means that I'm not supposed to be writing right now. And usually when I do that and I just come back to it later, then I will have more ideas, more inspiration. So I try not, I just, writer's block for me, I'm like, it's like a signal. It's like, if there's a reason I can't write, it's because I'm burnt out or I'm tired of writing or I don't have any ideas right now. And that's okay to just not have any ideas right now. So
yeah, it's crazy. The entire time, whenever I thought like, well, why does an artist take like so long to release an album? Why, like, they can't be that hard to write music or do a craft or something, right? And then exactly what you're talking about, writer's block, and you know, it's kind of a sign. That's awesome, because like you realize, okay, I'm gonna take time to myself, and it'll come to me one day, and that's cool. That's awesome.
We have another question. How did you start your social media, and how important do you think it was in the process of getting your work published and shared with a large audience?
I started not really sharing poetry like I talked about, and then I started reading poetry aloud, and that's where I really started to build this community of people around poetry. But how that definitely impacted like my book and getting my book out there, because I would share a poem from my book and then link it to my book. And I think that was huge in getting the self-published version of Home out there in the first place. And then that also just helped me get noticed with Penguin Life and get to where I am now.
Yeah, I think like social media is just kind of like your own free publicity. So if you can, it's a very scary thing to do, but if you can and you feel comfortable doing it, I do recommend it. Because I mean, I've started, like I said, I started in 2013, so I've been doing social media for a while, and I've always written, and it took me a very long time to release those words, but it definitely helped that there was a following to back me up, and just know you're also able to not just have your parents' opinion on your writing or your friend's opinion on your writing. You're also allowed to have like a virtual opinion on your writing. So if you don't, you're able to kind of vet the comments and be like, okay, how do I feel about this? Which is, again, scary, but also a little safe at the same time.
The other thing is there's always the option to like write under a pen name. Mm-hmm. And like if you're not videoing yourself writing or reading your poetry, if you're just like posting pictures or little written snippets or whatever, and like if vulnerability is like the thing that you struggle with the most, or you struggle with like your family reading your writing or people reading your writing, because I think those are sometimes the scariest people to be vulnerable with, are people that know you. You can always write under a pen name or put make a social media account under a pen name.
What would your pen name be? What do you think?
Oh gosh. Well, actually,
oh, you know?
So I don't know. I can't give you a definitive response. But when I was like in third grade, I used to write little books, and I decided that I was going to write them all under a pen name. But the only author that I could think of that wrote under a pen name was Dr. Seuss. And so I wrote under the pen name Dr. Noel, because I just thought all pen names had to say like doctor in front of it. I don't know. I was like 8 years old and I didn't understand how things work. And Noel is my middle name. So I wrote under the pen name Dr. Noel. So that would be what I do.
Dr. Noel. Imagine if I did Dr. Kidney. I already get weird DMs of people thinking that I sell kidneys or I'm a doctor. Kidney transplant.
Well,
what's that?
At least like nobody is going to have your name. Never. Like there's only one Joey Kidney.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is it. This is all you get, folks.
Who's your favorite TikTok poet?
You're looking at her.
Yeah.
Right there.
I invited Joey to do this event with me for a reason.
Yeah, explanatory. What is your favorite song? Speaking of music.
Oh boy.
I think mine. Oh, do you know?
I do know mine, but you can go.
Mine changes. Like I have like my yearly favorite, my monthly favorite and stuff, but the one that always comes to mind when I was in like high school, and I feel like at 16 we all go through our like traumatic events. It was a song called Forever and Always by Parachute, and it told a story, and that's kind of like inspired me to the way I write now. I kind of do like full circle poetry where I start with a line and I kind of end with the same line, and so that's. If you have a chance, give that song a listen. It might make you cry, but it's a good one.
It's really hard to pick a favorite song, but there's a song by Holly Humberstone. It's called Deep End, and that is the song that like I listened to over and over and over again when I was riding home. So it was that one that I put on repeat, and it was because it made me cry. But it's a sad song as well, and I just think it just means a lot to me now, so I would say that's probably my favorite song.
That's awesome.
What is the significance behind the bee?
So I'll tell you something that I have never told anyone on social media about the bee. I've actually never told really anybody about the bee situation, but the original reason that I picked the bees is because this person that broke my heart loved the smell of honey, and there was always like honey candles and like honey lotion and honey perfume, and so that was associated with this person that like broke my heart, and so that's where the bees originally came from, because I like had a special attachment to bees and the scent of honey. So then for me, the bees kind of became a symbol of like the heartbreak and the loss that you go through. And there's this poem that is on the back of my book, and it says the bees aren't going to go away, but they're going to change with you. Sometimes they will be chaotic, sometimes they will rest, sometimes they will give you sweet honey, and sometimes they will remind you of how much love can sting. But if you can find a home within yourself and make peace with your bees, you will be all right. And so it's like the bees and those feelings of loss and heartache aren't ever going to leave you entirely, but you are going to grow, and you're going to grow around that heartache and become a stronger person because of it. And so that's the story behind the bees.
Well, I think this is going to be our last question for the night. Which of your poems is your favorite, and could you read it to us?
Ooh.
Oh my gosh.
This is always
just
me looking for a book.
I honestly don't think I can pick a favorite. I think I've been asked this question a few times, and I give a different answer every time because
the poem of the day, I guess.
Yeah.
How are you feeling today?
Yeah.
Oh, a poem of that's a better question. There's no way to pick a favorite one.
Just so you know, it narrows down.
There's one that I'm looking for. I'll find
I think we're both flipping here.
Yeah. Okay. This one. I am in love with you. Yes, you. The people with fragile hearts. I think you are the bravest, most beautiful of miracles. If you cry when you read books, or if another's pain brings you heartache, if your heart cracks for the sake of bent butterfly wings, please stay that way. Do not let the weight of the world make you hard. And I just really like that one because it's a reminder to stay soft, and it's your vulnerability and your soft heart is a good thing.
I couldn't agree more. Joey, Whitney, thank you guys so much on behalf of Books and Books. It was so fun. Happy Publication Day. I'm so happy to be here with you guys. And to the audience, please purchase a copy of Home. There's a green button below our faces where it will take you right to the shop or online shop, and you can give it a purchase. But thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.